Well, hello there. Welcome to Spain, everybody. I'm on the coast, as you can see, and fairly high up. Not super high, but there are mountains all around me, and it's really been a beautiful morning. And I think what came yesterday, because yesterday was a challenging day. I know I spoke in the beginning of yesterday's video that I hadn't had sleep, and it just made the day more difficult, like where the hours were longer to walk in silence and solitude. But I had a number of things happen as well that weren't so pleasant. We didn't have enough sockets in our room to fully charge our phones, so I had mine only partially charged when I left in the morning, and it died 3 times. And along the way, when I was walking in Portugal, I was walking down this road, and it wasn't rural like this. It was a main road, but there wasn't any traffic at all. It was like it was offset from a real popular road. And there were houses, but nobody was around at all. And I'm walking along, and my phone's at 1%, and a very beat up, small pickup truck is driving down the road towards me. And from a distance, I see 4 men. I got not a great vibe from the feel, and wouldn't you know, they pulled up to stop, and my intuition said, don't say bon dia, don't look, don't smile, don't wave, don't be your friendly self, but look straight ahead and walk with purpose. There was a felt sense that these men weren't to be trusted, and that's only happened twice on my whole trip. One other time was leaving Porto before sunrise and actually being followed by a man for quite a ways. And thank goodness the sun rose enough and more people came out, and he desisted by that point. But other than that, it's been safe. And it was funny because it's outside 2 fairly large cities, more touristy places, that this kind of thing happened. Whereas in the rural countrysides, not only is it safe, but they leave the churches open, the cafes leave their chairs out, they don't lock anything down. So living remotely and isolated seems like it feels even more safe. But you can tell generally in life, if there's something that feels like it's an inspiration to do, like doing this trip, I'm not going to not do it in consideration of personal safety or not, because I trust that the call coming forward, the inspiration of Spirit, of God, has within it the mechanism for me to be protected. Do my due diligence. Don't be brash, but take the risk. I know so often women won't travel alone, and I can understand with the media and the things that we learn, but I can't imagine living life and always putting so many constraints. I know in so many other ways I'm still working to release myself of constraints so that I live a life on the edge even more. And that brings me to today's topic about living life. You know, life is risky. What does that mean? Life, it does us, but it undoes us. It brings us to the edge of our comfort zone every single moment of every single day. And oftentimes what people will consider risky is just popular risk. I think the real risk are the things that are deep within the heart, that can be scary to act on, that challenge our sense of self, that challenge our sense of connection, that challenge whether we might lose someone or something out of our life. Risk, to me, comes to those places. And we will always be asked to live risky lives, to say yes in such a way that we take the risk, we take the plunge. I remember when I was in my late teens, typical of many girls, I would eat for emotional reasons and I would not eat for emotional reasons. And I remember one time, for whatever reason, I was hankering a lot of sugar And I didn't want to deny myself that, and I had a chance to act on it, as it's so easy in the US to get food. And I was standing there on the edge of my own comfort, and inwardly I knew I would feel better if I didn't act on that emotional desire, if I took the risk that nobody would see, I would not get awarded for. I probably would have even angst for a while, and maybe even passing joy. It didn't root me in freedom around emotional eating for the rest of my life. It wasn't some big risk. It was a small risk. And yet I look back at that moment and I took the risk. And I remember afterwards the sweet contentment that flooded my body because I lived risky in that moment. That's the kind of risk I'm talking about. Yes, be safe. And with my phone dying a couple times yesterday, oh, it was something. In fact, I even cried at the end of the day. All these different things happened, and then we took the ferry over, which was a blast. It was a small little taxi boat because the big ferry wasn't going with the low tides. And I got over and I had like 3%, and I pulled up the Google Maps so I could get to where I was staying and just held my fingers crossed, like in that other video that the phone wouldn't die, but it did. And I went into a mechanic's shop, and they were so nice. They let me plug in my phone, and I waited 20 minutes and got about 3 to 4%. Wrote down the directions. Who handwrites directions anymore? Wrote down the directions in my guidebook and used my phone until it died again and began walking. Well, wouldn't you know, I get to where the directions led me and my place is not there. And I had no phone. And so and there was no one around. So I just began walking down this road, and I happened chance upon this guy. And in my broken Spanish, I told him my dilemma, and he started pointing, down the way. And I was saying, but look on the map, it told me the hostel is here. And he kept saying, I think it's there. But we ended up on his phone calling the hostel. And in his kindness to call this hostel, I just started crying. And anyway, he was right. The hostel was like just down the road a little bit more, and you will see pictures. It was such a beautiful, beautiful setting. So sometimes when we're pushed to our edge and we're taking risks, sometimes when the tension inside just gets strong, it's all right to cry. Don't you feel better when you cry? I always feel like a breath of fresh air ran through me. Right after I cried, because of his kindness, my whole body relaxed and my energy picked up, and I made it to the hostel, and it was beautiful. It was right on the beach. Reminds me of a song from the album Free to Be You and Me. So I'm going to end the video with this. It's all right to cry. Crying gets the sad out of you. It's all right to cry. It's gonna make you feel better. Raindrops from your eyes, washing all the mad out of you. Raindrops from your eyes. It's gonna make you feel better. Okay, so what risk can you take today? I know the risks I'm going to take. Blessings, my friends. We'll talk soon. Mwah.